and that the bars are close enough together to where all of those spiders aren't coming out. Because had it been a bin of spiders, or a cup of spiders,
anything open container,
a wagon of spiders, exactly, that would have been much, much worse than something that the spiders could not have gotten out of. What is it called? A terrarium?
Nice.
Yes.
Where the spiders can live and they can be protected too from the outside world. Then that, okay, still not going anywhere near it, but not quite as bad as just open container full of spiders.
And like you said, clearly you're picturing these spiders as protected. And Harry, luckily, gets protected from this situation because he runs into Hagrid.
First of all, he didn't speak clearly enough, so he's in Nocturne Alley, which didn't make sense to me. Nocturne Alley does not sound like Diagon Alley.
I mean, it makes sense if, like, there was Diagon Alley, and then shortly down the road was Diagon Alley.
Right.
And I think in the movies, I think they one of the twins or something even says that. They're like, Harry disappears into the flame, and they like, did he say diagonally? And then, of course, that's when Harry ends up where he is. So later on, Harry runs into Hagrid, runs into Hermione, and eventually runs into the Weasleys. And even Mrs. Weasley states, you could have ended up anywhere. Why the fuck are you letting a 12-year-old control something that he might end up anywhere?
100%, bud.
Definitely should have went with the buddy system on this one.
Let Ron go with him and say the shit. None of it makes sense to me why you were just like, yeah, Harry, there's a million rules for traveling by flute powder, but it's fine. Go by yourself, and we're all going to yell at you when you get it wrong.
If he would have said, oh, flute powder, I've traveled by this all my life, then yeah, let him go, because I'm sure that's the thing with Ron. They're the same age. Ron knows what flute powder is. But Harry says he's never used it before. Luckily, he runs into everyone. Hagrid asks him why he's there, and he says, he explains the situation. He says, look, flute powder first time. Hagrid's like, yep, understand how that works. And then Harry, appropriately, says, why are you in Nocturne Alley if I'm not supposed to be here? And Hagrid is looking for flesh-eating slug repellent. It seems like there's a more magical way to get rid of flesh-eating slugs from the grounds of a famous wizarding school than something that's bottled.
Also, Hermione finds him, and then the Weasleys do, which, first of all, magic. They should be able to find him a little easier. And then second of all, Mrs. Weasley pulls out a brush from her fucking purse or some shit and tries to, like, brush him off. Magic!
Yeah, cleano. Harry's completely clean from top to bottom.
Should have used magic is what you're saying.
Right.
My opinion is this is one of those things that moms do, and it's probably not something she would have used magic for because it's instinctual. She's grooming him, which is a typical mom behavior.
Oh, I'm picturing it. I mean, she's out there, she's brushing him off, she's licking her fingers, trying to get his hair to stay down. Like, she is doing everything typical mom that you would see in any kind of movie here. That's what I'm picturing. Even though it would make more sense if she just got out her wand and fixed every single problem.
Right.
I feel like wizard moms have a different routine than normal moms, and they should, but in this scene, they don't.
What if she's magicked out because she's had so many kids at this point?
So much stress.
Yeah. Well, actually, no, that'd be more for your point because magic would be easier.
Yeah.
All right, yeah, concede. That's on you. You got it.
First of all, Harry's like, the Malfoys were in Nocturne Alley, and Arthur is super interested in that, and he's like, oh, he's nervous about that? That's good to know.
And he asked Harry, oh, what was he buying? Because Arthur knows that Nocturne Alley is not the place that good, air quote, wizards go. And Harry clarifies, no, he was selling, and which to me is even worse.
Real quick, why is there even a dark arts alley?
That's a very fair point, and I was going to bring that up earlier. If dark arts are so bad, maybe we shouldn't have an apparently relatively easy place to find, because Hagrid just walked in, and he got kicked out of school in the third year, same thing, sort of.
Yeah.
And he just knows where it's at. If the ministry's doing raids on places, I think Nocturne Alley is probably the first place they should go.
If there's a whole class devoted to defense against the dark arts because it's bad, we shouldn't have a whole alley devoted to it, and maybe the ministry should take action.
The only reason I can see to have this place is the Defense Against the Dark Arts class needs somewhere to get the materials, in which case there should be one shop that only Defense Against the Dark Arts teachers or government employees should be able to go. This should not be some place that you can just walk into and by the hand of glory.
I'm trying to find a equal muggle place for that to be.
I don't think there is, which I think makes it worse.
Yeah. Like,
it would be like if there was a store that said "Murder or Us," and they sold pickaxes and citric acid. Oh no, that's an orange juice.
Black market or us.
Yeah.
Right.
Dark arts aside, the kids need to go get their books, so they go to Flourish and Bots, where they find out that one Gilderoy Lockhart is doing a book signing today.
Right. There's a bunch of middle-aged women standing in line, waiting to get their Magical Me audiobook and all of their other lists of books.
So the Weasleys, the Grangers, and the one Potter all walk in, and they notice that, it's packed to the brim, no room to move. The Daily Prophet photographer is there, and he steps on Ron's foot, which kind of causes a scene, and Ron makes a comment that attracts Gilderoy Lockhart's attention, and he sees one Harry Potter. I think we just get to the point where it's kind of being shown here that Gilderoy is definitely an attention seeker, and he knows that if there is one thing that'll get him attention, it is the boy who lived. So he beckons over to Harry, calls him on up, and at this point, he's just clearly looking for photo op time. He calls Harry over, and he tells everyone that when Harry came in today, he was not expecting to not only get a signed copy of Magical Me and all of his books for free, but Gildy also has an announcement to make.
First of all, Gildy.
Gildy.
Perfect. Love it. And yeah, he goes into a narcissistic monologue and announces he's going to be the next Defense Against the Dark Arts teacher.
Which totally explains the book list.
Right.
I went to college just long enough to know that when you see your class is taught by a professor and the book for that class is written by the professor, you are going to have to buy that book because they want to make a pretty penny. And that's exactly what Gildy's doing here. He is looking to make some extra dough on the side of what I can only assume is probably not a great paying job. We all know teachers are underpaid. I can't imagine that Hogwarts is any different. Although I love Hogwarts, so they probably do good.
I feel like my entire life is a sham now, though, because I just realized when you said Gildy that, gilded is a thing.
He's blonde-haired, and in the movie is wearing a gold coat.
Right.
And gold clothes constantly.
Right. And it's like a money thing. Like everything is money.
So we have this giant announcement, and he is the new Defense Against the Dark Arts teacher, and he gives Harry all of the books that he needs for class for free. And Harry, being the hero that he is, walks up to Ginny and is like, hey, you have all these books, I'll buy my own. And that brings us
to Draco.
And even worse,
his dad.
Draco confronts Harry and gang, and he cannot help but comment on this situation.
Right, and Ginny's like, fuck you. He didn't like that at all.
And Harry notices that's the first time Ginny has said anything while she's in his presence.
Like at all, period. She's never said a word in front of him. Ron brings up Draco being surprised to see Harry. And they start going after each other.
And that's when dads get involved. Lucius comes up and starts talking to Draco and sees Arthur and addresses Arthur. And they go a little bit of back and forth. They're kind of coworkers. They both work at the ministry. And as much as I hate to say it, Lucius has one of my favorite lines that I can remember off the top of my head. Because he asks Arthur if he's getting paid or he hopes that he's getting paid overtime with all the work he's having to put in with this supposedly new Muggle law. And Lucius notices that they're buying hand-me-downs. These books are all torn up. They are not new. And he says, what's the use of being a disgrace to the name of wizard if they aren't even paying you well for it? And I thought that was one of the greatest insults I've ever heard because it's smart, it's to the point, and it's like, I mean, if you're going to be shit, you should at least get paid for it, bro. Come on now.
Right, it kind of shows that Lucius holds himself to a higher standard than probably most other wizards do, or at least in the fact that Lucius believes he's better than most other wizards are.
And Mr. Weasley gives it right back to him, though. We have a very different view of what disgraces the name of wizard. Like, right away. And it kind of pulled back to the first book where Harry was like, I don't have the same values that you do, Malfoy. Basically, at this point, Mr. Weasley bounces back very closely with Lucius. They keep going back and forth about what disgraces the name of wizard.
And it finally gets to the point that Arthur's had enough.
Yeah.
And he goes at Malfoy, not verbally anymore, but physically. And there's a little bit of a tiff.
Once he disgraces the muggles that Mr. Weasley's with, he's like, fuck you, bud. And he goes after him.
Arthur is totally willing to accept a shot at himself. Doesn't faze him in the least. But once Malfoy goes after his family and other people he considers to be kind of innocent of the charge, that's way too far. And I think anybody can respect the fuck out of Arthur for that. You know what? Go ahead, attack me. I don't have all of my shit together, but you attack my family, that's way too far. And we're all ready to throw in fist for it. This is not an argument anymore. I'm going to beat your ass.
Well, and as far as friends go, you're referring to the Grangers. Hermione's parents are there. They are muggles. They are in Diagon Alley as muggles, doing their best. And this is, Lucius clearly looks at them at one point, and he's referencing them. And Arthur is so quick to defend them. And this goes back to the whole wizard purity thing. We know Lucius does not like muggles, muggle-borns, anything to do with muggles. So he sees them, makes a comment, and Arthur's like, yeah, all right, gloves off, let's go.
Hagrid randomly comes into Flourish and Blotts and splits everything up.
And it sounds like, from what I understood the description of this fight, Hagrid's about the only dude who could have broke it up. Like, they were in it to win it at this point.
Knocking down fucking bookshelves and shit.
I'm pretty sure at this point it would take no less than police to get these two guys separated. And if you're a longtime listener of this podcast, you know that I've said in the past, honor is currency. So something like this for Mr. Weasley is not going to fly. No matter what his wife says, no matter what his children might say, no matter what the police might say, this is getting solved right now. So these two scrap. Arthur ends up pushing Lucius into a bookshelf, which then falls directly down onto his head. Now, I'm of the opinion that if an entire bookshelf were to fall on your head, that'd probably kill you.
Concussion protocol for sure.
I guess when I read it, I assumed that the entire shelf unit came down. So maybe not one, but at least 3 or 4 shelves fell with books scattering everywhere, but probably landing on Lucius' head.
Hagrid has officially broken up the fight because it's gone too far. This is max capacity crowd. Got to get some rule in here. And a lot of these comments came about because Lucius had grabbed a book out of Ginny's Cauldron, and it was one of the old, tattered, beaten second-hand books, and that's where a lot of these poor comments came from. Once this tiff is coming to an end, he returns the book to Ginny's Cauldron. So, I mean, kind of a nice guy. Like, he could have just took them, but he returned them.
Yeah, he returned it, and he was like, that's all your dad can afford. Here you go. So, it was a nice gesture, but with a backhanded compliment.
Good lesson, bad reasons.
Right. And as they all leave, because they all leave after that, the Grangers are really shaken. Mrs. Weasley is pissed that the whole fucking thing happened. And Hagrid is just like, why did you even play into the Malfoys' bullshit? They're all trouble.
Even, air quote, uneducated Hagrid knows. Come on, man. Don't play into the Malfoys' hand. Everyone knows the Malfoys are bad.
Right.
I just thought it was funny that while all of this happens, his wife is only concerned with what Lockhart thinks about this situation.
And she even asks, she says that to Arthur, what do you think Gildy would have thought about all this, which I can't remember which.